right, so moving on to another amazing opportunity and something that's coming up. We can see it. It's the future of automobiles and also the future of fuels. So what will technology look like in 2030? With rapid advancements in technology and a shifting global landscape, the automotive industry stands at a pivotal juncture, poised for transformative changes. So in this session on the future automobile and future fuels, we aim to delve into the intricate intersections of technology, innovation, and sustainability that will shape the automotive industry in the year 2030 and beyond. The transition away from fossil-derived energy sources is accelerating, with nations worldwide collaboratively steering towards reduced dependence, particularly in transportation. Against this backdrop, our discussion will span the evolution of future fuels, including using those used in electric vehicles, biofuels, and green hydrogen, and beyond. Key questions arise. How will these alternative fuels revolutionize the automotive industry? What are the transformative potentials and challenges associated with each of them? Can biofuels emerge as a competitive option against electric vehicles? And how credible is green hydrogen as an alternative, especially for heavy-duty vehicles? Furthermore, as we envision the future of automobiles, the autonomy conundrum also comes to the forefront. What are the prospects for fully autonomous vehicles by 2030? And how will car-to-car communication evolve in this timeframe? Amidst these advancements, considerations regarding in-car entertainment, as Yogesh says, that experience, the navigation systems are paramount. Will automakers persist with current solutions dominated by Apple and Android, or will they pivot towards proprietary solutions akin to GM? Many, many other things for us to think about, but these broad questions will provide a framework for the panelists to share their insights and expertise. So can I first welcome to the stage our chair, the insightful Amit Paranjape, founder of Reliscore. Please give him a big round of applause. A post-lunch big round of applause, which should be bigger. He's a tech entrepreneur here in Pune with diverse interests in software, science, and public policy. He holds degrees from IIT Bombay and the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He mentors startups, advises and invests in early-stage ventures. And with him, we have an esteemed panel of industry stalwarts. I should just mention also, he's pretty big on Twitter, if you don't already know that. How many followers now? Sorry, on X. Pretty much close to 100K, I think. So worth following him for his insights on the history of Pune and many, many other areas. But now let's introduce his panel. So if I call your name, if I can invite you up one by one. Please welcome Ramkripa Ananthan, Head of Design at Ola Electric. She's renowned for her groundbreaking work on automotive design, shaping iconic vehicles like the Mahindra XUV 500 and Thar. She now focuses on electric vehicles at Ola Electric, exploring motorcycle designs for the first time. Next, we have CV Raman, Chief Technology Officer at Suzuki India. Please give him a big round of applause. His career spans decades of innovation and excellence in automotive engineering. His notable achievements include upgrading the supplier ecosystem and developing Maruti Suzuki engineering into an R&D hub for the Suzuki Motor Corporation. And completing our panel is an old friend, Yogesh Umbarkar, Vice President of Business Development at Valtech. Please give him a big round of applause. He's a distinguished veteran in automotive technology with a track record of spearheading industry academia collaborations and speaking at international conferences with leadership roles at Convergent Science, Ricardo India, and CRTI. His perspective is going to offer valuable insights into the evolving automotive landscape. Amit, over to you. Looking forward to the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Vandana. I know a post-lunch session is a challenge, but it's good to see the hall nearly full. So I think that's a good start. So we have an interesting topic, and one reason we discuss this topic with Ambassador Bambaule and few others is specifically because how automobile is not just something that all of us use and are familiar with, but it's something that from a geo-economic standpoint had a significant impact on the supply chains and on trade and some specific strategic issues. So that is the other connect that we thought would make sense specifically for this particular topic and this particular conference. So all of us have seen the disruptions that COVID caused to the automotive supply chains. Now, automotive supply chains are amongst the most complex in the world because they go all the way for not just material, but for semiconductors, which are increasingly a very important part of a car today. And with the disruptions that we saw a lot of policies and decisions coming in from various governments who realized a little later, but nevertheless, better late than never, of how important semiconductors are. And a lot of the things that you're seeing today, whether it's US, whether it's India, many countries, these factors have played some part in driving why semiconductor, I won't say full independence, but some level of Atmanirbharta is important. So that is also an auto supply chain impact. Now, let's look at the industry size, for example. This is one of the largest industries in the world. It's a $3 trillion industry today. And with the current growth rates, it's going to go to about 4 trillion by 2030. And all of us are very familiar with the rapid pace with which the automobile itself is changing. So what we plan to do in this panel today is talk about how some of the things as it pertains to the design, as it pertains to the fuels, as it pertains to the interior technologies are going to change in the automobile, and how that impacts potentially the supply chains, the geo-economic trade angle, especially this is very important when it comes to the fuel element of it, because as you know, countries like India and China, which are amongst the largest consumers of fossil fuel, depend to a large extent on foreign countries for their fuel. So that's the geoeconomics angle to it as well. So we will discuss that, and then we will get into more specifics about some of the technologies, some of the new technologies that are coming in as far as the automobile is concerned. So we want to talk about both the automobile as well as the fuel component of it. And Vandana did a great job of summarizing the kind of fuel discussions that we're going to have, whether it's biofuels, whether it's electric vehicles, lithium-ion batteries, or some other batteries. Like there's been a lot of discussion here in Pune as well about sodium-ion batteries. And of course, hydrogen. So we'll get to that. So we have a very broad list of topics to cover, limited time. So what I'm going to do is ask my panelists to initially do a free-form 7 to 8 minute discussion about what they think of the future of automobiles and what is driving them in terms of energy, in terms of the powertrain, and go over that in one round, and then I'll come back with more specific questions. I want to wrap this up so that I leave at least 15 minutes for audience questions. So we will have a good interactive session at the end, I promise. So maybe we'll start with you, Ms. Ananthan. I know your specialization is design, so we would love to hear from you in terms of how the design element is also evolving. But over to you.
Thanks, Amit. Please call me Kripa. Thanks to PIC for having me here, and Gautam, thank you very much for inviting me here. So Gautam called me, and immediately I said yes, without even thinking what it is. And then I realized it was geo-economic challenges. I was only wondering, what has a designer got to do with geo-economic challenges? So I'll start with this sort of trite joke. It's a joke, so you have to laugh. And that's probably why I don't get called to conferences. But my mother was a teacher. And so she used to talk about this kid who was preparing for his exam. And he knew that this question was going to be on a cow. So he studied on a cow. It had 4 legs, gives milk, all that. And then when he went, it was on a coconut tree. So he said the cow was tied to a coconut tree and then spoke about the cow. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do. Anything that he throws me, which is not in my field, I'm going to bring it back to design. I'm a designer. Me and people of my ilk are between the customer and technology. So I guess in a way, I could relate to technology questions. How do we see customers? I'm going to say it in a very simple, very reduced form. So we layer needs as rational, emotional, and meaningful. And let me, for the sake of India, broadly split it as two meaningful groups. The first group that looks for meaning in vehicles or mobility is looking at it from a livelihood point of view. It's about total cost of ownership, it's about affordability, it's about adding value to their lives. And for that person, how do I, as a designer, leverage technology, be it battery, motor, mechanicals, software, electronics? How do I use these levers to make that product or that service more meaningful to this customer for someone for whom, when I talk to, I'm from Ola Electric, and I had vehicle design. When I talk to my customers, be it e-bikes, ride-hailing, commercial vehicles, they talk about the vehicle as a brother, as a friend in need, as a little extreme, but God. So you can see how important that product is for them. So as designers, for us, it's very important to be able to focus on lightweighting, on let's say platformization, on less parts. So these are the areas in which we sort of focus on, and as I said, leverage technology to do that. If I go to the other side, so the other set of customers for whom meaning could be in self-expression, could be in experience, and I have a long experience in that genre of vehicles too. So for this customer, it's about performance that makes the drive pleasurable. Amit was talking about driving on the Nagpur expressway. And so it is about that experience. It's about technology that makes this experience seamless. It's about being connected at all times. It's about ADAS, and Yogesh will, I'm sure, talk more about that. And it's the design has to reflect that person's sense of person or their tribe. So it has to have that presence. And here, it's more for a designer, it's about being the latest trends, let's say, in lighting. It's about aerodynamics, it's about frontal area, it's about very sleek silhouettes. So this is how we look at design, and the future of design is going to be broadly in these areas. And while for the second customer, sustainability is more about emissions or climate change, for the first customer, it is in a different way coming to the same aspects of sustainability, but more driven by cost. And that's how I think it's going to be relevant for India. You would see articles coming out now how electrification is actually going to be in India from the bottom up. I'm saying bottom purely from a price point perspective. We have 20 million two-wheelers. So sorry, I'm going off subject, but
I think that's interesting because we'll come back to that later. But if you look at US, it really came top down with the most expensive $100,000 Tesla Roadster, which came about 10, 15 years back. And here we are starting at fairly at the, not the lowest end, but fairly at the low end of the pyramid. So journeys have been quite different. And probably China's journey is similar to what yes. we are doing. So we'll come back to this, and I'll tie it back to the supply chain aspects of it. But Mr. Raman, over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you to PIC for calling me, Ambassador Bambawale, for inviting us here. Thanks for that. So the topic is future of automobiles and future of fuels. What I would like to talk about is sustainable mobility as my opening part. And I believe that sustainable mobility is built on three pillars. One is the economy. Second is the environment, and third is the society. So, and of course, all of this, we have to keep the customer in mind. Customer is the center of this, and Kripa talked about the customer. And today, what the customer is looking for is a total cost of ownership, definitely. He is looking for affordable mobility. He's looking for comfortable, convenient means of transportation to move from place A to place B. Use it as a means for his own economic growth, and looks at safe, comfortable mobility. So acquisition costs, running costs are of course key as far as the customer is concerned. So when we look at from a regulation perspective and from an environment perspective and from an economy perspective, I think one of the things which comes to mind is that, and you talked about 2030, and we want to, we are a $3 trillion economy, and wanting to grow, maybe double that by 2030. And and we also in the Amrit Kal, the government feels that has a very ambitious target. The Honorable Prime Minister says, we want to be the second largest economy in 2047. And so, from that perspective, there are many enablers as far as India is concerned. The demographic dividend, definitely, I feel, is one major thing. India is a young country, and having aspirational customers wanting to have the best what is available in the world. So that is clear. For the economy to move, definitely infrastructure is important. Government is putting a lot of effort in terms of Sagarmala, Gati Shakti, and so many other initiatives. So many expressways are being built. So definitely, I think the infrastructure is growing, and that's going to be the enabler. Of course, the other thing which is happening is digitalization. That's one key thing, and we have seen that from the UPI or any of the other initiatives which have happened. The Indian customer has very quickly adopted to that, and and transformed in a way. So I think that is also, you can see in a way, coming into the mobility landscape in a way. And of course, the per capita income is also likely to grow, maybe double by 2030. So that's one thing. And we expect from this part that the passenger vehicle today is about 4 million passenger cars. I'm talking about. I'm not talking about two-wheelers and others, but passenger vehicle is supposed to grow at about 8%, 9%, and we will be about maybe 6.5 or 7 million by 2030. So obviously there is a lot of growth which is going to happen. Second is when we talk about sustainability, we talk about what is the need of India. Energy security and environment is of course the key things which we talk about. 85% of our crude oil is imported, and that's a large portion of our import bill. So I think that's something which we need to keep in mind. And of course, one of the challenges which we have is local pollution, which is there, congestion, and we also have INDC targets which have been increased from 30% to 45% by the Honorable Prime Minister, and we are, I think, going to achieve that by 2030. CO2 emissions are the key things which we are looking at, and there is India has taken a target 2070 for carbon neutrality, and I believe that the economic growth which is there is going to be driven by energy, because and it has to be sustainable. So, and we have to grow. Our industrialization is happening now, which has happened, in the developed world much earlier. So I think there is, I think a lot of things which we need to do from a sustainability aspect. And so fuel becomes very, very important, and energy becomes very important. Lastly, if you come to the society, and today what customer looks for, wants to have move from place A to place B. I think shared mobility, multimodal transportation, I think are some of the things which we need to look at. Of course, another way people look at is, should we reduce the travel time? Should we have spaces adjacent to everything consigned to a particular area, your place of work, whatever, everything is so that your movement is less. So I think that's also one big factor which is there, which can be sustainable. Having said that, India has to move, and I believe that today, if this is a study which was done by Terry some time back. So it says that what we are talking about, from transportation, from two-wheeler and four-wheeler is about 15% of the people of India move by this private transportation. Out of that, 12% is two-wheelers and 3% only is four-wheelers. So that's the number we're talking about. And public transport is 18%, and bicycle is 13%. On foot is 23%, and 30% of India doesn't move at all. So I think that's a statistic. So now, question is from a society perspective, how can we move 1 billion Indians for the economic growth is another aspect. And last point I would like to talk about is maybe the energy part of it and the fuel part of it. I think India has to find its own path, I believe, very strongly that, today we are a fossil-based, mobility, how we transition and how we can leverage the, advantages of India, I think is very, very important. And I believe that electrification of the powertrain is going to happen, definitely. And we are going to see a lot of traction there. And there are many manufacturers who are coming in with EV. Kripa's company is at the forefront as far as the two-wheeler is concerned. And in the four-wheeler also, you see, many companies coming in, and you will have numbers growing. But I think there are other alternate paths which are available in terms of alternate fuels. There is a large, India wants to be a gas-based mobility too. And so the government is increasing the infrastructure for CNG. You are seeing, at least in the example of Maruti Suzuki, 25% of our vehicles are CNG today. So CNG means that it's 25% reduction in CO2 compared to a petrol vehicle. So I think that's the statistic one needs to keep in mind. But having said that, the other thing which is possible is waste to fuel. How can you use waste to create fuel? And CBG is one big thing which is being again propagated by the government, and in the last budget also there was mention of that. I think that's something, waste to fuel. You can, whatever the waste goes into as methane into the atmosphere, how can we capture that, create it into fuel? I think that's something which is very, very key. And one example, of course, one other thing which India is looking at is ethanol from agriculture. How can we create grain to fuel and create some the economy for the agrarian economy to grow, create that. So ethanol E20 is one definite step which is happening. 2020 we will have 2025 pan India we will have 20% blending of ethanol. And now we're talking about flex fuel vehicles, E100, E85, which is a Brazil example you see, and Brazil has almost 50 or 60% of the ethanol, the fuel is ethanol. And so that makes a lot of sense for a country like India is the other part. And I think any of this thing has to be green. So when we talk about the electrification, one of the things one needs to keep in mind is that, is the energy renewable? And today we are at about 25% of renewable capacity, utilization, and we may go up to maybe 50% by 2030, 500 gigawatt is being talked about. So I think that is something which is going to also further enhance the electrification, is what I believe. And so this is what some of my thoughts.
Thank you for summarizing the entire breadth of our topics that we want to discuss. A very good summary. I think we'll come to each of these specifically in the next round. You mentioned about the connection of mobility and economy. I think if you look at the last 200 years, there's been a very strong correlation between
Absolutely.
how economies have progressed and how the transportation has developed, whether it was the rail in the 19th century, whether it was automobile, later on the aviation industry, and all of them have contributed. So there, just one quick data point, but if you look at India, for example, if you look at US or some of the other highly developed countries, we talk about 800 to 1,000 cars, and I'm talking about four-wheelers per population, per 1,000 population. Europe, which is very good at public transportation, still has 400, 500 cars per 1,000 population. China is around 250 now, and India is around 60. So, while all of us agree that public transportation is very important, especially for crowded cities and all that, the automobile is going to play an important role as our incomes rise. Yes, maybe people are not going to ride the automobile in the congested parts of the city, but the automobile ownership will go up significantly. And I'm not even talking about the European level, but just to get to where China is today. Of course, China is going to go much further in the next 10 years. So thanks for summarizing that. So Yogesh, coming over to you, can you summarize your first 8 minutes of overview of this topic?
Sure.
I have a lot of questions for all three of you. I'm listing them, but I'll come back to that later.
Definitely looking forward to. A very good morning. I can see some of the sleepy faces, so just wanted to say good morning just to wake up, or good afternoon. First of all, thanks Gautam and PRC for having me here. It's a really great opportunity to share the stage with Raman sir and Kripa, definitely. I'm a more powertrain guy, coming from the engines to the electric to now the connected world. So I can summarize a lot of things, what obviously Raman sir and Kripa mentioned, right from the customer to the sustainability to the economy angle. I'll probably touch more on the technology side, kind of what is the trend happening in the mobility industry. So one of the topic which Amit started was with the COVID. Earlier, before COVID, we used to say the trend in the automotive are CASE, which is connected, autonomous, shared, and electric, which after COVID got changed to the PACE, which is shared became a more personalized, and the rest, the three abbreviations remain the same: autonomous, connected, and electric. So just I'll dwell some of the technology base or what's happening in each of those train areas. So obviously electric, as Raman Sen mentioned, it's already there. Obviously, Krupa's organization is trying to kill that ice age and going totally electric. So obviously, what we see as a technology-wise and based on the TCO, based on the application-specific thing, the two-wheeler, the three-wheeler, the light commercial, and within that light commercial, you can talk about maybe up to even 15 ton based on the duty cycle requirement. And some of the bus, city bus transportation is definitely, we see the trend towards the electric. But however, there are other segments on the long haul commercial vehicle and few other where you need a substantial energy density. We do see the trend is still as Maruti probably and most of the Japanese companies are really going in a right way, not totally shifting the gears in a 180-degree quickly. And then we see that more hybrid and in a near distance future, once the hydrogen price parity comes, the availability, we do see that the hydrogen can take a big step in that direction, particularly on the long haul and heavy duty applications. So that's more on the electric side. When you talk about autonomous, obviously India is the most doubtful country. Everybody challenges, hey, where is autonomous? However, saying that, you have seen now there's a lot of uptake is happening in a ADAS feature. So there's a level of autonomy, we say from 1 to 5. So obviously we see the level 2 autonomy is already on the road, and it is really helping in terms of the safety aspect, in terms of the comfort, convenience aspect.
Yogesh, sorry to interrupt, but this is important. If you can quickly talk about level 1 through level 5, what they mean.
Okay, so level 1 is, I mean, rather than each level, I would say level 1 is, there is a 100% you need to be on your steering and on the foods, okay? And level 5 being just enjoying, watching here and there, and so on, right? And the level 2 is where you have the level 2 features, for example, are adaptive cruise control, right? The cruise control, but now it is adaptive where based on the vehicle upfront, it will take the action of if the upfront vehicle has slowed down, it will slow down immediately. You don't need to press your accelerator or braking situation, and you need to have a steering in place. That's a level 2. Our lane departure. So let's say somebody is just, as long as the infrastructure and the lanes are there or lane markings are there, you can still use it on the highways, so lane departure. And there are certain features which helps you with the traffic congestion scenarios on the ADAS 2 level. So when you say autonomous, it's already, I would say, level 2 plus, things are catching up. Again, it depends on the infrastructure, how this vehicle to infrastructure connectivity gets built up further. So you can have a more and more autonomy there. It's just chicken and eggs game, essentially there. So we talked about electric, we talked about autonomous, and then that's my favorite topic today, which I have got into right from the powertrain to the connected is uh, the personalized and the connected. I'll try to combine both of these in the interest of time. So what is happening here is, as I think in the morning we had a session on a Gen AI, right? So we are talking about the digitalization has really grown to the all the levels, right? And in terms of the rural to the urban area, in terms of age aspect as well, overall. So that digital consumer or digital customer, and including the now 5G connectivity, the trend is really becoming like the vehicle is becoming the mobile on a four wheels, literally. The way you can the way you experience the mobile use for different things, n number of things. I would say now what is happening is in the connected world is vehicle as a centerpiece. How do I connect with while sitting in the car? Can I get my home kind of experience? Can I get my office kind of experience? So it's kind of a connected home, connected office, connected lifestyle. So how I can do the lot of shopping. I can order the Swiggy, Zomato before I reach home. I can just while on the go, I can use that. So that's connected lifestyle. Then there is a connected home. As I said, is you the moment you get into the parking, my bedroom lights can be on or AC can be on in the summer. Then it comes to the connected energy system. So now being in electric vehicles, you want to see that how do I connect to the grid? Also, the vehicle to grid. There's a lot of things are happening in that direction. So overall, this connected car experience is shaping up a lot of different business models. And at the end of the day, the people want how car as a third living experience I can enhance, essentially. Obviously, there's a personalized aspect we talked about, I think, in the morning also. It should be in the context of me. Whatever the Gen AI we were talking about, how it relates to me. So when I just now, we have a multiple profile on the mobile phone. The way moment I sit in the car, it understands it's Yogesh. And then maybe on the weekend or somewhere time where my wife sits, the vehicle understand, okay, so it need to be shifting my music, themes, color, lights, everything. So how do I get that personalized experience connected to the vehicle? And ultimately, all these things, at the end of the day, as we were talking to the Raman, is uh, the OEMs are making that car connected, and they are putting a lot of value in terms of the car connected experience. But at the same time, we do see certain challenges in terms of, I'll just touch on those challenges part as well, opportunity-wise. Am I secure enough? Is there cyber attacks issues? My data itself, is it private enough, or is somebody trying to misuse that? So that digital consumer is really want to have that convenience, comfort, ease of use, or that experience, but at the same time, he is equally conscious about the data privacy as well. So obviously the DPDP Act is coming along. But overall, we do see that there is a good amount of connected experiences shaping up. And the way I'm talking to a lot of the Japanese OEMs versus the European OEMs coming from VW Group experience. Now, when I talk to the Japanese or the mostly Southeast Asia, there is a still good gap. But I would say equally, and I was really, when I compared the Japanese versus the Indian ecosystem on the connected, I think it is really at a good level. So, and then the adoption is accelerating overall. So yeah, with this overall, I would say that there is a good opportunity with the 5G infrastructure shaping up and the digital consumer, the experience, the Gen Z, the kind of expectation shaping up from the car are really getting to the next level.
So thanks for summarizing the state of things to come as far as the future car is concerned. I know it's going to be a very fascinating topic. And interesting you brought up the cyber security angle as well, because those are some of the things that we don't worry about a whole lot today, but those are something that we as consumers and policymakers and geopolitical strategists will worry about a lot in the coming next 5, 10, 20 years. Just to give you a quick example there, for example, you may have read about it recently that Teslas are banned in some localities in China. And that's because the Chinese government is paranoid that Tesla is getting all the data and they have cameras for self-driving. So they're actually taking live videos or photos of areas, and there are sensitive areas where they don't want Teslas to be because they're worried that that data may be uplinked back to the US. Now, this has been a paranoia for China for the past few years. US is now returning the favor by now insisting that there are going to be special acts about the kind of data that cars can capture, especially foreign-made cars can capture when they are brought into the US. And whether we like it or not, this is something that every country will have to worry about and pass legislations around and have some monitoring aspects about what data is stored where, because it brings fundamental privacy issues at an individual level and national security issues depending on what angle you're looking at. A more trivial, I won't say trivial, but a smaller, more personal example of using too much technology is the connected locks or the smart locks that have been enabled using smartphones for some of the cars. Many people thought they were quite cool, but increasingly they have become the biggest favorite of many hackers. So cars are being stolen just by hacking onto an app, which is a smart lock app. So there are challenges there as well. We talked a lot about. Sorry, you can make a quick point.
Just want to add up 2 points on the same topic. So as in India, from 2027, the Cyber Security Act is coming. So it means that whatever incidences you are trying to talk about, that will taken care. And then already OEMs are getting in that direction. The other act is a DPDP. I think in the morning, the panel also talked about Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which is probably will get, the draft is already there, and then it's probably come in force in 6 months or so.
Just to add,
Sure.
2027, 26, 27, over-the-air updates, wherever you are having infotainment system, were OTA enabled. So they will come in the ambit of the cybersecurity, and 2029, 30, all vehicles which will have to come into it. So as connectivity is increasing, I think this is one big challenge, which and software is increasing in the content in the vehicle. So it's a challenge.
Thanks. Thanks for summarizing that. So Kripa, let me come back to design. Now, if we look at what's going to happen in the next 5, 10 years as far as cars, two-wheelers, vehicles are concerned, what are some of the main changes or trends you're seeing when it comes to design? And when I say design, it's not just the exterior design, but exterior design, interior design, but also the impact on the materials, the manufacturing processes, the sourcing associated with that. Because ultimately, some of those things have big implications on the supply chains and the potential geopolitics associated with that. So what design changes are you seeing, and how are they driving the upstream supply chain?
I'll try to answer that, Amit. So our endeavor as a pure play electric vehicle manufacturer is to say that we will make electric vehicles at the price of ICE vehicles. For the customer, the powertrain in many parts of India is irrelevant. So I want a vehicle, I can afford this much, and what am I going to get? So considering a very large percentage cost of a vehicle right now is the battery. So it drives the entire design, because what was otherwise a cheaper powertrain is now very expensive. So how do we do this? We do this by vertical integration. So all the technology is vertically stacked in-house, and a little bit of the supply chain for that. So with every generation, we'll have to look at batteries as being more efficient and less expensive. So with battery technology, maybe somebody will talk a little bit more about it. So right now it's lithium ion, and you have NMC, you have LFP, you have LTO, and each of these technologies, you have to choose right for the application. So there would be difference in density. Anyway, going away from that, with every generation, we are improving the density of the battery pack. And we are able to reduce costs. We as in lithium costs are going down. Lithium mining is going up sustainably, hopefully. And so the cost of batteries are coming down. Same thing if I say for motors. Current efficiencies are at, depending on company to company, it varies. But the next generation of motors for us would be ferrite, and then we'll be going on to magnetless. As you know, rare earth minerals, and hence expensive, and hence. So more efficient, less cost, and that's the trajectory for technology, for design, for EVs. And the same, and I think he'll be talking more about electronics, but software-defined vehicles so that less dependency on hardware. Again, a large percentage of electric vehicles is, if you have to go to radars or LiDARs, very expensive at a hardware level. So this is sort of the trajectory that we are looking at for making the transition to...
Now, again, more specific to two-wheelers, but this question is, I think, also relevant to four-wheelers. Especially in a country like India, do we see trends towards battery swap, or, fast charging is becoming more attractive where removing the batteries, especially for two-wheelers, is not that relevant?
I was thinking about this when Mr. Raman was talking about other technologies, other fuels. I think there are many ways of skinning a cat. So it will have to be appropriate. There would be long haul where you probably need to swap. There would be areas just portable batteries are enough. Like the other day I'd gone to Bombay, and we were wondering why electrification of two-wheelers is not that prevalent in Bombay. And then you realize these are people living in, and high rises. And so maybe portable batteries will work. And in many cases, we've seen currently that it's a change in behavior. So if you go back 100 years and think about horse-drawn carts or steam-driven vehicles, you were having that form of mobility, and you were doing necessary things to have that form of mobility. Now we've been used to ICE vehicles for so many years. So if I have to go to Bombay, I would just get up and go. I would have no worries about range anxiety, etc. However, with electric and the current form of electric, and again, if you see over the decades from what ranges were to what they are now, 1,000 kilometers seems to be easy peasy. So it is very, very rapidly improving. But there would be behavioral change. I think Mr. Raman spoke about it. The vehicle that I would have for going to work daily would probably be different from what I would do if I have to go to Bombay. So there would be behavioral usage of different types of batteries, swapping, portable, charging on board, and behavioral change in terms of how you use it.
One quick question while we're on the topic of batteries. Is lithium-ion pretty much a done deal? Because we hear, especially there's a company in Pune that's doing good work, sodium-ion and other technologies.
Yeah.
Given the issues with lithium, and very few countries have that, do we see that changing? Are there any other technologies on the anvil?
Not my area, but I believe that all this, whether it's iron or if it's sodium, sodium-ion technology already exists. It's just a question of making it at the cost and So I think there would be from solid state to wet to dry. There are so many technologies out there that are being worked on. Mass, scale, and cost. These are the things that are being worked on currently. And it is very important for us because lithium also currently, we do have mines in India, but we are dependent on imports. So we will have to find sources of India.
So Mr. Raman, let me come to you and the question that we were discussing just before we started the panel. It's a favorite question of mine because I go back to 1997, 98 when the first Toyota Prius was launched. I don't know how many of you have heard of the original Toyota Prius or what it is, right? It was the first mass market hybrid car, and the hybrid technology was extremely revolutionary at that time in terms of recycling some of the waste energy and charging the battery and using it. And not just your company, but Japanese auto firms in general seem to have hedged their bets in the hybrid versus pure EV. There are companies like Tesla, or recently even the Europeans, who have gone with pure EV. Whereas the Japanese still seem to be on the hybrid, Toyota especially. So this is a topic that we can discuss for a long time, but I would like your view on this, because this is also related to this fuel dilemma. Which way do we go?
So before I answer that, I think I'll just add to what Kripa talked about in terms of design. From a EV perspective, both on the interior side, on the exterior side, there's a lot of change happens, because especially on a passenger vehicle, the platform itself needs to be changed from a ICE vehicle to a EV, because the battery has to come underneath. So that's one aspect of it. And second is, of course, if it's going to be swappable or non-swappable, of course, there'll be a difference, which you need to accommodate the space. EV increases the weight. So lightweighting becomes very, very important. So that's when, at the highest end, you have the, Tesla, where, we're talking about gigafactories and full magnesium, and so those kind of, that level. And today where we are at, steel structures, which are, going to ultra high tensile, reducing the weight. Similarly, in the same way, from a design perspective, it is becoming very, very minimalistic and trying to, reduce the sections and, reduce the overall weight. The infotainment system is gaining ground, in that perspective. The screens are becoming larger because everybody wants a connected thing. So, connected vehicle, and he wants to, the passenger, the co-passenger, both want to have a different type of, view. So I think that infotainment system, that is changing. So I think that a lot of change happening on the material side, definitely. So coming back to your question about, the Prius. So right now the Prius is now, I believe, is in the 4th generation. It started in 97, 98, as you rightly pointed out. And so I think the key point is that it is a self-charging technology. And you were just, Kripa just mentioned about, Mumbai not having, a high population of two-wheelers in the electrified form. Reason is very clear. We talk about public infrastructure for electrification, but electrification it cannot happen unless you are doing home charging. Home charging is key. So vehicle has to be, and you would not want to do a high C rate charging. You want to do at normal charging so that you can extend the life of that. And so therefore, home charging is key. So that's the point, basically. And so there is a study which was done by us, and so 60% of India, especially on the four-wheeler side, two-wheeler is different. We believe that two-wheeler adoption will be much faster because spaces for parking are much simpler and it's lower voltage, so it's much easier to charge. But higher, the passenger vehicles require higher, voltage. So they are 350, 400 volts, or now 800 volts. So I think space for parking is key. 60% of India doesn't have parking space, and they park on the road. Especially in Delhi and other places, if you see, they park on the road, and that's true in many other, part of the metro cities. Now condominiums are, putting up charging infrastructure, and so. Now, that is one thing which you need to do. Today, we go home and you put the charge, a mobile on charging. If you don't have, you have a battery pack and you're able to manage that. In an EV, that's a challenge. What does a hybrid do? It is able to recuperate the energy which is being lost to the extent of about 35%, and charge the battery and give an electrified range in the city. So I think that's something which you need to look at. And from a CO2 perspective, if you look at a well-to-wheel calculation, if one does, for an EV today versus a hybrid vehicle or versus a petrol vehicle, unless the renewable energy quotient increases to 50-60%, the well-to-wheel ratio or the calculation doesn't, is not in favor of the EV at the moment. But 2030 it may change. It will, because of the renewable, quotient which will increase. So I think that is the reason there is a thought that hybrid is also one way, a path, which can also, sustain the ICE vehicle, still reduce the CO2 of the vehicle, because ultimately when we are talking about sustainability, we are talking about reduction of CO2 on the cycle and on the road. And so, as I said, CNG reduces by 25%, a hybrid will reduce by 35%. And we believe that all fuels will have a place because of a wide range of spectrum of customers which we have got and segmentation which we have got. And there will be people who will buy a EV, but EV will be a second vehicle predominantly today.
Right.
But a
City, local
hybrid could be a first vehicle also.
So Yogesh, let me come to you on this one, but you're a powertrain expert as well. So let me ask you a question specifically. I didn't want to ask Mr. Raman, which is, India is short on all kinds of transportation needs and is short on all kinds of fuel as well, especially since we import so much fossil fuel. So what do you think in 2030 would be a mix in India when it comes to, ICE versus hybrid versus EV? And then in terms of fuels, what do you think will be leading? I mean, biofuels, how big biofuels can get?
Definitely.
No, I'm not going to ask the question to these two people. I'm looking at you as slightly independent on this issue.
No, I'm looking for a business opportunity, so I need to talk. No, having said that, it's really a difficult question. If I have to really have that crystal ball, then I can talk about. But from a technology, because it's a chicken and eggs game, it's not just purely, as Raman san mentioned. I mean, I've been talking from my previous organization, Ricardo, which is a powertrain consulting company across the globe, and then I remember in 2017-18 when I used to go to the conference and we used to have our slide in terms of how the future technology roadmap look like on the powertrain, and then we used to have the same slide, and I still vouch that slide with the 33, 33, 33. So it's still ICE will be there, EV will be there, and then I would say, hybrid will be there, and then the pure electric.
So you're taking a very safe stand.
Yeah, no, but then I think it's in the real sense. Now, having said that, whether that 30, 30, 33 remains same for all the segment, no. I mean, as I'm not looking for a business right now. So as two-wheeler is definitely, I would say, except the classic kind of a performance kind of a bikes, okay? There is also big shift is happening, but then except that kind of a segment on the commuter two-wheeler, it's literally IC, end of ICE. It's just not purely based on the cleanliness or climate change scenario. It's a TCO in the Indian context, right? Then bus segment is where I see that currently it's a electric, which is shaping up. But if you move forward, once the hydrogen price parity comes, which is green hydrogen we are talking about, where the green hydrogen is at around $4.5. The moment, the way we are seeing Adani's, Ambani's are pushing on the hydrogen economy, right? Their fuel, they have already enabled the hydrogen-powered ICE engine, fuel cells, all those technologies. The only thing is the hydrogen cost need to come down. And obviously, Mr. Ambani have in 2021 in this AGM announced the 111 mission where he would like to deliver a 1 kg hydrogen in less than $1 in a decade. And I do see that based on the certain discussion and the development I've been coming across, probably it is a realistic situation coming across. So by 2030, I would see that for a long haul or even for a city transportation buses, it could be a hydrogen ball game. And that hydrogen ball game could be even hydrogen
Combustion.
ICE
Combustion.
engine, combustion engines
combustion.
as
Got
well.
it.
Because fuel cell seems to be a distant
Right.
future, given the supply chain, the maturity and everything around. So that's the way forward I can see.
So I think what we're going to do is about 15, 20 minutes. So I'm going to get over to questions pretty quickly and leave 5 minutes at the end for sum up. But one point that we haven't talked about that I'll quickly summarize is the semiconductor angle. And semiconductors are becoming more and more important. Last year at Asia Economic Dialogue 2023, we did a session on semiconductors. And semiconductors are getting more and more important in every piece of equipment, especially in cars. The cost could, I mean, in the years to come could be 20, 30, 40, or even higher percentage. And we saw what happened during COVID. So some of the policy decisions that India has done, particularly over the past few years, to increase semiconductor Atmanirbharta, they are very important. And once again, as I said, when we think of semiconductors, we may not have to jump to making microprocessors or GPUs. That's a different kind of technology, and there are only few companies in the world that can do it. But the chips that are needed for automotive, which are much bigger and less resolution wafers. Those need to be first built in countries, all countries that have big markets, especially countries like India. And it's glad to see, especially some of the announcements that have been done as recently as this week about the semiconductor plants and semiconductor investments in India. So I think that's a very strategic progress that we're making in this area. So let me come to questions now. A few quick ground rules. I want. Sorry. Yeah, please go ahead.
I don't know how to dovetail that into this conversation, but I think what's very important is to think of talent, future talent. For us, this time is about rapid change. And for rapid change, we are talking about reducing development time cycles from 3 years to like 9 months. And this is going to be possible only if you have really deep tech, deep knowledge in areas. And it's not a question of starting colleges now or starting to learn now. So this is an area that we will be dependent on.
I think thanks for highlighting that, because we briefly touched upon in the previous session as well with Mr. Karnik. Talent in this new industry is especially important. We here in Pune, especially, we like to pride ourselves on good talent in the automotive space and need to upgrade it for some of the newer industry. So questions, very short questions, longer questions I'm not going to entertain, and questions only, no comments. Comments can be done offline. I'm going to take 3-4 questions.
Good afternoon to you all. My name is KV Raman. I am a water treatment and wastewater treatment professional, but more than that, I would like to ask this.
Please hold the mic closer.
So I would like to ask this question as a common man. Everybody talks about technology, EV and all this, hydrogen fuel, everything. Whatever I am hearing about the technology, I am not hearing much about, recycling of the, batteries. Okay, that is a great concern, because absolutely silence on this front from the government as well as from the automotive industry. How are you going to recycle this battery? Is there any plan now to infrastructure or any technology to collect this?
Okay, got the question. Recycling batteries. Next question.
One more. Question.
No, I think we'll come to one question. We're like 10 hands up. Sorry. Mike, who has the mic? Anyone who has the mic can go ahead.
Yeah, hi. My name is Sushil Borde. We are talking about future of automotives or automobiles in this session. Expanded, it can also be future of mobility in a way. So what is going to disrupt the automobile? Do you have a view on that? Are you planning for that? A CEO that I know is saying, and is working on a solution for that, very close to it. He says that the problem with the car on the road is not the driver. So why are you against the driver? The problem with the car on the road is the car. And let's displace the
constraints
car.
For our
let's
city.
displace the car.
Okay.
So what are you watching in that space?
Okay, we'll take one more question here.
So hi, I'm Dattatray. I work for Bosch in the automotive cybersecurity space. So my question is for Kripa, but I'm happy to hear from any of the other panelists. While the use cases for four-wheelers in the modern vehicles are pretty appealing, how do you see future trends in two-wheelers, especially for two verticals, that is safety, driving safety, and the second being the connectivity features, considering that the fact that two-wheelers are a very price-sensitive segment, especially in India.
Got it. Krupa, you want to take this one first? Then we'll get to the recycling battery and then to the future car.
Yeah, so on two-wheelers, you were asking about safety and connectivity. I think both are linked. That's why ADAS should be not seen as autonomous, but things like level 2, where if it's ACC, it's already preventing accidents from happening. In India, I think things like helmets with, right now people don't even wear helmets, which I'm always unhappy in Pune about. But having airbags built in, these are available technologies, and I think they will come very soon to India at the right price and prevent a lot of this from happening. So that's what I would say on safety and connectedness. I would say they would be linked. There is a lot happening in the space of entertainment with connected, and yeah.
Maybe I'll just want to add up to the same question, because you talked about the safety. There is another couple of cases which we have come across is, as Krupa mentioned, helmet as a necessary. So you are on your digital cluster now on the two-wheeler, you are having the vision models where it captures whether you have a helmet you have wore or not. If not, it will not start, right? So that that gives you, I'm just giving you one use case, but there are multiple use cases. The other thing is, which you talked about, the connectivity, because the user is not paying for that, okay? And that's something, one of the things which we are on a connected vehicle side are working is a data monetization. Because the OEMs have put up a lot of infrastructure to make that car connected, including the electronics, the hardware part, the software part, and even the cloud infrastructure part overall. But at the end of the day, we were talking to Raman san as well. At the end of the day, the user, after 1 year or 2 years of subscription, they're not going ahead. So where we see the opportunity then is, okay, the user is not ready, but then the platform have collected a lot of data, okay, and that data can be leveraged by other service provided, and then that's what we call it as connected services we can add up, where the consumer can be targeted with certain services. Right. He generates, and then because of that data or platform, the service provider generates a revenue, and hence, out of that value, whatever the platform have delivered, he gets something in a bag. So that's where the data monetization
There are
things
some startups like that are trying to work on the insurance side. But let's come to the second part. I don't know, Kripa, you or we'll talk about the recycling aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I'll come to recycling. Couple more points on two-wheelers. I think cornering lamps will come up, and things like heads-up displays. All of this at cost. So we have a cell gigafactory. It should be up very soon. So definitely batteries, second life. Once in the vehicle, it goes down to, let's say, 80%. We see it as energy storage devices. Of course, there is a lot of work going on in OEMs to make state of health clear, so that you can take the battery for end of life, for storage reasons. Mr. Raman spoke about energy storage. Big need, big industry. And at the end of that is when we'll have to think of end of life of battery. But currently, I think we are doing a lot of work on getting batteries from vehicles at 80% efficiency into energy storage solutions.
Mr. Raman?
So I'll just add to the 2 points which my panelists talked about. One is on the safety aspect of it, and I think on the connected part. I believe that, once all vehicles get connected, I think there's an opportunity for vehicle to infrastructure, V2X, going up, in a big way. And that's going to help in, improving the safety quotient on the vehicle, on the road itself. Because one would be able to, have a good, because if the, all the signaling is also IoT and, the vehicle is connected, there is a good indication for the customer when he is driving either a two-wheeler or four-wheeler on blind spots and things which are happening, and create an emergency braking system, whichever is there in the four-wheelers, or it kind of help, in helping on the safety side. That's one part of it. Second part of it is, as far as the battery recycling is concerned, yes, it's a very, very important topic which it needs attention. Today, there are 2 recyclers in India who do recycling of batteries. Most of the batteries are being sent out actually earlier for recycling. But I think this is something which we need to grow, because if you want to have a circular economy, you want to have sustainability, I think cradle to grave is an important aspect, and batteries need to be taken care of. But in between, of course, Kripa-san talked about the second life of battery. That's also very, very important. But in storage, it is possible to be used. However, energy density is a challenge because the storage battery system versus what is there on the vehicle is a little different. So I think that's something which we need to figure out. But definitely, it's a very, very important point what you talked about.
Yeah. Yogesh, I'm going to come to you with Sushil's question. But as I say, in the end of the 19th century, the automobile disrupted the horse carriage. So I guess if I understand Sushil's question, what may disrupt the automobile?
Yeah, I think just adding to starting with the battery, one more take part I can add up there is...
Yeah, real quick, I think we want to get more questions.
Yeah,
we have done this
from a second life perspective,
time.
there's a battery passport kind of a thing where you can track the past uses and enable the future uses much more efficiently. So that's the part of the recycler sustainability. Now coming to the disruption scenario, I don't... I mean, from the perspective, the way we see now is one of the trend moving is vehicle as a service or mobility as a service. So that's the trend which we see is going to disturb because the new generation, they are looking for a experience, not just point A to point B travel. So whatever I'm doing it, so they don't want to spend that much time. The way we see that now new generation don't want to invest in a home. They're more looking for a flexibility and the experience. So that way I see that there's a lot of mobility as a service model will disrupt the thing. And then if you ask me, there'll be multimodal transportation need to be looked at based on the use case, city versus intercity to the
Okay, that's
other
a
areas.
good point. Quick point.
Quick point from my side. I think I talked about, from a customer point of view, one wants to move from place A to place B. Comfort, convenience, affordable mobility is key. And so how can we provide that? So one is definitely in terms of public transportation. If you are able to move from place A to place B, there are developed countries like Japan, where there's example, you can move from place A to place B in a very, very convenient way. The Japanese, the young people, they do not want to buy a vehicle. So what is the disruption which is likely to happen is that the customer may not want to buy a vehicle if there is a availability of a good transportation system. And that's happening because the costs are going up and the parking spaces are required and all of that. If affordable mobility is available, then one would not want to really go. And if shared mobility is there, you can always hail a cab and you can go places. So that's, I think, what I believe is going to change. And India has to move in that direction, I believe, as a mobility solution. It's not just about me as a four-wheeler manufacturer or Kripa as a two-wheeler manufacturer. I think this is all about how do we make an effort to go towards that direction. I think that's very, very key, is what I believe.
An interesting trend that I noticed at CES 2024 is looking at the vehicle as space. So yes, it is space that you use as mobility, but it's also just space when it's parked. So it serves as multiple things, conference room. So this has been in the talks for a long time, but now it's actually being envisaged and I think will happen soon and won't just be mobility.
Okay, we have just 8 minutes, so two very quick questions. Atul, very, very short, 10 seconds.
3 reforms you would like from the government of India.
Got it.
And
Good.
state governments as well.
Good question. One more here, Rahul. Take it from Atul.
Sorry, this might be a stupid question, but what happens to the whole transition if oil prices fall below $50?
Good point. So I think if oil prices fall below $50, what happens to the transition? You'll be happy probably. But actually the first question, top 3 requests to policymakers.
Will emissions stop also?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Good one.
So I think
Actually, all 3 of you can quickly weigh in on this,
okay.
and that we'll end with that.
So yeah, definitely. I think oil prices fall. Yeah, definitely. But then again, we have a sustainability point of view which we need to take care of. From a customer acceptance perspective, definitely it may make sense. But from a government perspective and from an environment perspective, it may not. So how do we look at that? And how do we look at as governments or policymakers to look at that portion? And today, any of these technologies which are there, I believe that today electrification is there because that's one direction which certain governments have taken and certain companies have taken. But I think from a 3 reforms perspective, I think one needs to look at the overall picture. I think that's very, very key. I believe that you need to look at what is CO2 and what is creating the CO2, and from cradle to grave, how in manufacturing or whatever we are doing and whatever we are using as customer, that how is it changing, how customer is unable to do that. Yeah, so the full life cycle is very, very important. How customer is thinking about it. Customer today wants a bigger vehicle, which is again a conundrum, I believe. The customer wants a bigger vehicle. He wants a heavier vehicle. Okay, he wants a more pricier vehicle. He wants everything. He doesn't want a small car, which has a smaller carbon footprint. So I think that's something where, again, we need to look at what is it that we are doing from a mobility perspective. I think that's something which we need to look at. And I think we need to look at a technologically agnostic approach going forward in whatever recommendation which we are looking at, that what is the means to the end. Technology is the enabler, I believe, and it should be looked at from the perspective of sustainability and from a customer point of view is what I believe.
Yogesh, policymakers, 3 things for policymakers.
I think the one is, from my perspective, is infrastructure. Then as Raman and Luke mentioned, whole life cycle approach, including our power, right? Because we are talking about the most factor from the government perspective is the climate, apart from the mobility as a service or making the transportation convenience and affordable. I think the infrastructure, the life cycle management, and the technology agnostic. I mean, just one jokingly answer is I'll probably move from connected to the IC engine back, basically, if that 55.
Over what Mr. Raman and Yogesh spoke, from the government, I can think of 2. One is deep need for talent, deep talent in future tech, which currently I think we are woefully behind, and not just knowledge application. We need this in the industry and not just in the sphere of knowledge. And the second I would say is road safety. I think we have a lot of technology now that's not being, in my view, narrow view, not being leveraged for road safety.
2 excellent points. I think we'll close on that. I'll just summarize, but I think these requests are very important. Infrastructure is obviously key. We need road infrastructure, we need charging infrastructure if we are talking about EVs, we need biofuel and alternative fuel infrastructure if we are talking about other fuels. Similarly, we need this end-to-end view of the supply chain or of the carbon footprint, not just what is being burned, but how that. And you brought up this point twice, and I think that's extremely important, and that's talent. I mean, whether it's talent at the designing level, it's talent at the manufacturing level, and we are definitely weak on that front, and especially with the speed at which the technologies are changing, I think that is definitely something that we need to work on. And the safety angle, I agree, it should also be part of the infrastructure. Whatever we design into our infrastructure, the new roads, the new highways that we're designing, they need to have an integrated safety systems design as well as monitoring system into it. Yogesh, we're almost out of time. One last point, since you're...
No, I just want to praise Ola particularly. I mean, Ola as such, as a epitome of the startup ecosystem. The way I see that, how many startups will survive and go further, that is a secondary question. But on the talent point, I think the startup mushrooming has built up the ecosystem. That is the biggest advantage. It has really created a skill set for the world, I would say. That's the point.
That's good. So I think I'm going to close here with actually 1 minute to spare, which is a rarity in panels, but I like to keep my panels on time. So, okay, there is a last question or comment by Ambassador Bambaule. I can't stop that for sure.
Here's a suggestion, not for the panel, but for the next term of Prime Minister Modi. Perhaps what they should be focusing on is a Pradhan Mantri Shahar Sadak Yojana for cities like Pune, Delhi, Nagpur, and others.
Yeah, I think especially for all of us from Pune who drive by a university, I think they will definitely relate to that. So on that note, thank you very much to Krupa, Mr. Raman, Yogesh. It's a great panel. There are a lot of things we wanted to cover. We touched upon a few of them. Lots more to discuss in subsequent sessions. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Please give them a big round of applause. And could I please invite Air Marshal retired Bhushan Gokhale, who is a trustee of Pune International Centre, to present a little token of appreciation to each of our panellists and our chair. So, thank you, sir. First of all, to Kripa. Big round of applause. And then to C.V. Raman. And then to Yogesh Umbarkar. And last but not least, to our able chair, Amit Paranjape. And let's get a group photo, please.